Hi, hello. I've decided that it is a little bit too late in the week to start the week of Natasha Denona, so I'm just going to postpone that until next week so that this week we can just fully focus on the Color Balm collection from Pat McGrath Labs, because for whatever reason I want to continue nerding out on that collection and specifically the formula of the eyeshadows. So we're going to continue chatting about that, and you will see the Natasha Denona series coming next week, which is why a lot of the things that I say during that series would seem extremely out of place. I'm going to apply a little bit of the Becca pore priming filter just to fill up a little bit the pores on my face before I forget. A lot of things, especially when I ramble about the Yucca palette, we have all been corrected by Alicia, who informed us that the correct way to pronounce the name of the new Natasha Denona palette isn't the Yucca palette, it is the Yucca palette. I find it a little bit bizarre to say Yucca because it's almost like yucca, but it's a plant, okay, it's a plant. And I think it is really wonderful of her that she's making an effort to pronounce the name of the palette correctly. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of my eyeshadow primer. But anyway, a lot of the things that I say about that palette in that Natasha Denona series will seem very out of place if I post the videos next week, because it will already be like 2 weeks from the release of the palette. But for the time being, I do not plan on purchasing that palette, as beautiful as it looks and as, you know, up my street as it looks. And at first I was really puzzled by my lack of interest, but then I figured out why I am not super into that palette. There are just too many mattes and too few shimmers in there, and while the shimmers seem to be of pretty spectacular quality, I just don't like palettes that are too heavy on the mattes. I'm going to pop a little bit of my Glow Lust in the shade Selenite from Auric, because the situation underneath my eyes with the allergy season is like pretty fucking dire, so I need all the help that I can get. But why was I talking about the Yucca palette in the first place? Oh, because of the Natasha Denona week that I'm doing. Okay, so that topic has been, I think, fully covered now. That series is coming, it's coming next week, but this week we can focus on the new Pat McGrath collection, and I do actually have everything filmed for another episode of my lipstick rotation. For my foundation today, I'm going to take the Dior Backstage. I've really been enjoying wearing this foundation lately, and I think it is as good a time as any to finish it up, even though I'm a little bit concerned that if I ever decide to revisit this foundation, it might not be in the same formula. But anyway, so nerding out about the new Pat McGrath collection, something that I found pretty striking, because one of you pointed it out and I didn't really realize it until this very moment. So I mentioned that the metallic shades in the new Passion Fleur quad remind me very much of the metallics that we got in the Celestial Nirvana palette. It was the big mega mothership that we got for the past holidays, which featured a number of beautiful colorful mattes and a couple of metallic shades. And the metallic shades to me seem to be in a sort of newer type of formula for her. They feel very densely packed, and they're not very like flaky and textured, and they lack the dimension of any duochrome or glitter. Personally, I was very disappointed by that, because I was sort of counting on this new palette being like Celestial Odyssey, and Celestial Odyssey had a number of really interesting textures. FYI, I'm grabbing also a little bit of the concealer from Charlotte Tilbury. The Celestial Nirvana palette was, I don't want to say that I was disappointed with it, but it was just not my favorite, because I found the metallics, which are usually the thing that I'm the most excited about when it comes to Pat McGrath Labs. I'm going to grab the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer in the shade 1N. I just find them to be the most exciting part of her palettes, and I long for her, you know, baked shades, her glittery shades. I long for the textures that make her brand special. And to me, those metallics just did not feel special at all. And that is exactly the same feeling that I have with the metallics in this new quad. As beautiful as they are, as smooth as they are just so not extraordinary. They don't really distinguish Pat's metallics from any other metallic formula on the market. And to me, they do really feel very different compared to the metallics that we have gotten in the Decadence palette and a number of her other US-made palettes. That's when we circle back to the really interesting fact that one of you pointed it out, and that is that the Celestial Nirvana was actually made in Italy. So there goes my theory that we are getting the same metallics because they come from the same lab. They do not come from the same lab, so I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to grab a little bit of my Dior powder while we ponder on this. So apparently it is not the same formula, but also I don't think it is the same lab that usually makes her metallics for her US made palettes. For example, the Interstellar Icon Quad, which features one of my absolute favorite metallic shades from Pat McGrath ever, period, the shade Golden Polaris, that was made in the US. So apparently they can make really spectacular metallic eyeshadows. But that formula is completely different to what we're getting in the new quad. I want to use Sun-Kissed Seduction on my cheeks today, but I figured it might be interesting to pair the cream blush from Pat with something in a cream formula from my bronzers. So I decided to go for the medium shade from the Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury from last year, and I used the same type of brush to apply this. I just stipple a little bit of the product like this, and then I stipple it back onto my face, and I sort of like buff it out also that way. I'm very curious how that's going to look like. So there goes our theory that these formulas are similar or subpar because they come from the US. Apparently a subpar metallic formula can also come from the Italian lab, or an Italian lab, maybe it's a different lab. I'm not sure whether the same lab that makes her baked shades also makes all the other products that come from Italy. That of course remains a company secret, something that we shall never know. But you know, because of this like lack of interesting shades lately, although that is a bit of an exaggeration, okay, because we got also this beautiful new formula from her Queens. So it's not like she's not giving us really interesting shades, it's just that I've been so spoiled to expect wow with every release. It's your fault, Pat. Basically, it's your fault. What can I say? You've really spoiled me, and now I expect fabulous blinding eyeshadows with every release, and so do I think a lot of us. I don't know, you have no one else but yourself to blame. Alright, I'm going to take Sun-Kissed Seduction now to apply on my cheeks, using the same method with the same dense brush. I am still very worried about the new mothership though. My breath will be, you know, I'm going to hold my breath until the very last minute because I'm just so concerned that she's phasing out the baked formula, and I would be so sad to not see that formula again. Oh my gosh, I love this color. It is such a pretty color, such a gorgeous like sun-kissed. I've been in the sun and I've gotten a little bit of a kiss from the sun. How many times can I say sun-kissed? I don't know. Anyway, I love this formula, I love this blush, and I love this color. It is gorgeous. I mean, Pat is free to do whatever she wants with her brand and with her formulas, but just for me personally, as a fan, as a consumer, I think, what if that was it, you know? What if we never get baked shades in her motherships again? Taking Golden Nectar to highlight, it means that what we have in our collections right now is it, and that makes me a little bit sad. I mean, what we have in our collections is already quite a good number of really fabulous eyeshadows, but I just kind of counted on the fact that someday we're going to get, you know, a baked taupe shade with really interesting glitter in it. We're going to get more greens, possibly more blues, hopefully even more interesting neutrals, because I just love when she does twisty neutrals. But now I'm like, what if they all are like the formula in Moonlit Seduction, which to this day is just not my favorite. I just don't think that formula is as elegant and as flattering as her baked shades. So that just personally as a consumer makes me a little bit sad, makes me cherish all the palettes that I have with baked shades even more. Taking a little bit of my Fix Plus on the sponge. But I trust Pat that she knows what she's doing with her brand, and hopefully she's not going to simplify her formulas too much, because I don't want to ever look at a Pat McGrath eyeshadow and feel like it's cheap, because that would be so sad. That would just break my heart. Before we do the eyeshadow look, I just wanted to compare the plums in the two Bridgerton palettes with the plum that we have in the new quad. So I'm first going to do a comparison swatch of the plums in Bridgerton one versus new palette. Oh, the one in the Bridgerton one is such a beautiful, like, cool tony plum. Bridgerton, new one. I don't know that an explanation is necessary here. You can clearly see the difference. This one is more cool toned, more mauvey, taupey. I don't know, beautiful. I love this. This is still really pretty, and I think you can maybe see next to this shade that it also has somewhat more cooler tones to it. And now let's compare to the plum shade in the Bridgerton 2 palette, which I do not like. Let's put that right here. Yeah, see, this has a little bit more red to it. It is a little bit less cool toned, and possibly that is the reason I don't like it. You've already seen from the thumbnail the palettes that we're pairing today. I want to pull out for the Huetopian Dream palette, and I'm first going to start the look with this gorgeous, like, more neutral leaning pink shade through my crease. Then I'm going to go back into the new quad, into Passion Fleur, and I'm going to take the plummy shade basically in my winged eyeliner shape, and then I'm going to go in with this shade all over my lid because I'm just very intrigued by the cool tone pink flip of this eyeshadow. And then over top of that I want to play around with the Astrals, and then I'm going to go back into the Huetopian Dream palette and I'm going to put the gorgeous Astral... I know the name of this shade. Give me a second. Nope, I need to cheat. Astral Venusian Orchid over top of the pink shade. I think they're going to look glorious together, and I need like a touch of green in my makeup so that, you know, it all matches nicely. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a fluffy blending brush and go into the gorgeous neutrally pink shadow. Oh, and I just realized I forgot to do my brows, so I'm just going to quickly do my brows before we continue. I'm applying a little bit of the Too Faced Laminating Brow Wax. I think I finally found the absolute perfect way to apply this product, and that is applying it on my brows, then taking off the excess with this clean spoolie. And back to the eye look now, continuing to build and fluff upwards the pink shade from Huetopian Dream. You should also take all of my extremely nerdy thoughts on Pat's eyeshadows with a huge grain of salt, because I just like really deep dive into the textures that she creates, because I just love nerding out on her brand. But if you're a, you know, someone who doesn't really care too much about her textures, go and check out, for example, the video by Charlotte Holdcroft, because she really loved the new quad. To her, this quad is much more about the colors that are paired together, which admittedly are very cohesive and make really pretty looks. She was much more about that than the textures. I've never really heard Charlotte nerd out too much on textures, so if that's something that you're not super interested in, then I recommend that you go and watch someone who doesn't really care about that and can give you a completely different perspective on Pat's eyeshadows. If you want someone who gets extremely nerdy about her formulas and possibly a bit overly critical, then definitely stick with my opinions as well. I'm taking a little pencil brush like this and going into the plum shade from Passion Fleur, and I'm going to apply that here as a winged liner shape. I don't know that applying an eyeshadow like this close to my eyes right now is the smartest choice, because my eyes already are looking pretty bloodshot. But if we don't take risks, do we really live fully? Hashtag deep. You came for the makeup and stayed for the life lessons. I might tone this down and put the brown from Huetopian Dream on my lower lashes, just so my eyes don't look excessively bloodshotty when I go to work. I don't want to scare my colleagues. Taking a little bit of the NYX glitter glue and applying that on the back of my hand. Ooh, on a completely different, unrelated topic. So Lisa Eldridge opened her first like actual counter in Selfridges. Huge, mega, you know, achievement for her. I'm so happy for her. And she said that the first 200 people who visit her counter in Selfridges are also going to get a new limited edition of velvet. Has anyone seen, because as you guys know, I'm completely cut off of Instagram. I did go on her account yesterday, but I couldn't really find it. Has anyone seen what that new velvet shade looks like? Is the idea that we are at some point all going to have the chance to see and purchase this, or is this like a exclusive thing for Selfridges? I'm just like curious. I'm taking the pink metallic shade on a flat shader brush now, and that's going to go now all over my lids, and I think also in my inner corners actually. I'm just very curious what the shade of the velvet is, since we didn't really get new lipsticks or eyeshadow palettes from her now in the spring. I am a little bit itchy to get me something for the spring and summer from Lisa Eldridge, but she hasn't really given me the opportunity to spend my money on her makeup in the past couple of months. So I did actually go back and buy some older things. As you guys already know, I purchased Palazzo and Velvet Blush, and Velvet Blush is also the color that I'm going to wear today because I think it's going to fit the plum shade perfectly. I'm completely in love, by the way, with Velvet Blush, so I have no regrets that I purchased it. But I'm just really dying of curiosity to see that new secret velvet shade. And now, just using my finger, I'm going to take a few flecks of Astral Venusian Orchid, and I'm going to apply that all over the lid, over top of that pink shade, because this shade already has like a pink base to it. I think the pink from Passion Fleur is just going to intensify that, but it is also going to add that beautiful like light green flip to match with my shirt. And now, like I said, just to not go too overboard on the plumminess around my eyes, I'm going to take the brown shade from Huetopian Dream to run underneath my lower lashes. Like I said, wearing a Velvet Blush from Lisa Eldridge on my lips because it is just such a beautiful color. It has a little bit of like berry tones to it, and it is just the nude that I didn't know I was missing in my collection. You will hear me say this so many times. Anyway, this is the final look. I quite enjoy how this look turned out. This plum shade is possibly one of my favorite plums from Pat because it is a little bit cooler leaning compared to a lot of her other plums, which have a very like strong red base to them. The only shade that I would still like to revisit one more time is the coppery peachy pinky shade over here, but I think for the most part we've done already quite a few looks with this quad, so I hope that you've gotten a really good impression of that. I also hope that you're enjoying the full-on nerding out on Pat McGrath's eyeshadow formulas. You know what I was thinking? When people sometimes watch TV shows, especially the ones that have like more twisty endings or are a little bit more in like the mindfuck category, people start digging into every little detail and over-interpreting every little clue that they see in those shows or movies, and then the original creators of the shows sometimes are like, guys, sometimes a shoe is just a shoe. It's not a shoe that your grandfather traveled from the future and placed exactly there on purpose. Sometimes a shoe is just a shoe. So perhaps I'm also taking this to like an unnecessary level of nerding, but I really can't help myself. When I'm super fond of something, I tend to get very obsessive about it, and I tend to notice all the little details. With other things, I'll be like, whatever. But when I'm really like obsessively focused on something, like Pat McGrath's brand, I tend to obsess over every little detail. So if she were to listen to my ramblings, she would probably be like, huh? But I also hope that on a deep down level, she would appreciate the level of detail, time, and emotion I put into her brand. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this look. I hope that you're enjoying all of the Color Balm collection videos. The blush, by the way, gorgeous, stunning, I love it. I just love these blushes. If there is one piece from this collection that really stands out and I highly recommend, it is the blushes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!